These are 12 American landmarks you won't believe are real until you see them with your own eyes. We aren't talking about theme parks. We're talking about real communities with the craziest lifestyles on the planet. You'll see a town where students commute through underground tunnels to escape blizzards, a place where it's Christmas 365 days a year, and a ghost city where faceless ghosts are silently reclaiming the Nevada desert. This video will take you from one surprise to another, revealing the absurd realities hiding within the world's leading superpower. Are you ready to be shocked by the facts your textbooks never mentioned? Let's dive deep into the weirdest places in America right now. At number 12, Burlington, Wisconsin, the capital of liars. If you drive through the heart of the American Midwest, you'll eventually find Burlington, Wisconsin. With a population of about 11,000 residents, it looks exactly like what you'd expect. Endless cornfields, the peaceful Fox River, and charming red brick houses. Everything feels perfectly normal, until you notice the signs. Scattered around the streets are small bronze plaques for the Burlington Liars Club. There is no immediate explanation provided, just a growing sense that behind this quiet exterior, the truth is being handled a little differently. This isn't just a local joke, it's a world-famous tradition that started in 1929, right at the onset of the Great Depression. Every new year, the town crowns the world's greatest liar. Thousands of entries pour in through the mail from hundreds of miles away. But here's the first layer of discovery. They aren't looking for fraud or deception. They are judging the art of the tall tale, the most creative, sophisticated exaggeration of reality. For instance, one winner once claimed a drought was so severe that people had to use paper clips to attach stamps to envelopes because there wasn't enough spit to lick them. At first glance, you might think Burlington encourages dishonesty. But here's the twist. This isn't about being fake. It's a psychological coping mechanism. Born in America's darkest economic era, these lies were a way for people to turn their misery into a punchline. By making their problems bigger than life, the residents made them easier to bear. Imagine asking a local for directions and being told about a fish so big, at least 50 pounds, that when it was finally pulled from the lake, the water level dropped 2 inches. Your GPS might give you the coordinates, but in Burlington, logic takes a back seat to wit. It's a place that teaches us that reality can sometimes be reshaped by words alone. But while Burlington distorts the truth through speech, our next stop will trick your eyes. You'll feel like you've been dropped into another country half a world away, and you won't even need a passport. Number 11, Tarpon Springs, Florida. A Mediterranean oasis. Leave the noisy Florida highways behind and turn onto Dodecanese Boulevard. Suddenly, the typical American strip malls vanish. In their place are brilliant white houses with blue trim, brightly painted fishing boats, and signs written in the Greek alphabet. In a state famous for Disney and swamps, you find yourself in a community where English feels like a second language. It's a visual shock that makes you wonder, how did an entire Mediterranean village end up on the Gulf of Mexico? The secret isn't on land, it's under the sea. This isn't a town built for tourists. It's a rugged industrial hub fueled by sponge diving. In the early 20th century, this tiny spot supplied 70% of the world's natural sponges. As you walk the docks under the scorching 90 degrees Fahrenheit sun, you'll see tanned men processing sponges by hand right on the pier. The logistics are brutal. Historically, divers plunged 30 to 50 feet deep, wearing lead-weighted suits exceeding 100 pounds. This is a working waterfront, raw and unpolished. Here is the twist. While it looks like a mini Epcot designed for photos, Tarpon Springs has the highest percentage of Greek Americans in the United States, over 10% of the population. They aren't performing for you, they pray at St. Nicholas Cathedral and maintain traditions like the Epiphany, where young men dive into the cold bayou waters to retrieve a wooden cross in a fierce ancient ritual. You aren't on a movie set. You're in a sovereign cultural island. The air is thick with the scent of buttery baklava and grilled souvlaki. The rhythm of life here shifts constantly, the frantic energy of the docks where boats unload their catch, slowing down to a crawl in the shaded cafes where elders play backgammon for hours. It is a stunning, quiet contrast to the neon lights of the rest of Florida. Tarpon Springs proves that a people can carry their soul across 5,000 miles and plant it firmly in American soil. But while the difference here is about where people came from, our next destination is about how they chose to live. And Oasis, where people abandoned all private property for a social experiment that lasted nearly a century. This was number 10. Amana, Colonies, Iowa, an island in the Heartland. To drive through the endless Iowa cornfields and you will suddenly stumble into a world spanning 26,000 acres. Here lie 7 stone and brick villages, but something is missing: the fences. In a country that worships private property, this community spent 80 years erasing the line between mine and yours. And now it begs the question, how did a true communal experiment thrive in the very heart of America? The answer lies in a strange architectural detail. Between 1855 and 1932, houses here were built without a single kitchen. Instead, over 50 communal kitchens fed the entire population. Step inside one, and you will find no bills and no cash. Everything operated on shared faith and a strict labor division. Everyone worked according to their ability, and everyone was fed from the community's massive farms. It was a lifestyle where eating at home meant eating with the entire village. You might assume such a communal society would eventually fade into poverty or stagnation. But here's the twist. You likely have a piece of this utopia in your own house right now. The Amana Corporation, world famous for its refrigerators and microwaves, grew directly from the craft shops of this very community. In 1932, a moment known as the Great Change, they transitioned to a market economy, not because they failed, but to save their spiritual soul from the pressures of the modern world. Today, a walk down the limestone streets feels like moving in slow motion. The air is thick with the scent of oak from handcrafted furniture shops, and the silence is absolute. It is a striking contrast. On one side, modern industrial technology. On the other, old world traditions of prayer and simplicity that have remained untouched by time. The Amana colonies prove that humans can create a completely different reality when bound by a singular ideal, even if the price is personal privacy. But if Amana was about escaping the noise of the world, our next stop chose to freeze time during the happiest moment of the year, a place where 365 days carry the scent of wonder, and letters never go unanswered. Number 9, Santa Claus, Indiana, where Christmas never ends. Imagine standing in the sweltering 90-degree Fahrenheit, Indiana summer heat, staring up at a 22-foot concrete Santa statue. You are at the intersection of Candy Cane Lane and Mistletoe Drive. This tiny town of 2,500 residents celebrates Christmas every single day of the year. It feels like a massive theme park, but the reason behind it is far weirder than a simple tourist trap. The name Santa Claus actually started as a bureaucratic accident. In 1856, the community wanted to name the town Santa Fe, but the USPS rejected it because Indiana already had one. During a desperate town meeting on a snowy night, a child heard sleigh bells and shouted the name. They chose it simply to get their post office license, decades before anyone thought of selling a souvenir. But here is where the discovery deepens. This accidental name created a global logistics miracle. Every year, this small post office receives over 30,000 letters from children worldwide. To handle the volume, a group called Santa's Elves was formed. These aren't mythical creatures. They are local volunteers who read and respond to every single letter by hand. There are no form letters or AI here. It is also the only place on Earth with an exclusive Santa Claus postmark that is redesigned every single year. The vibe of the town shifts from the loud, neon energy of the Holiday World theme park to the quiet, sacred atmosphere of the old post office. There, you'll see residents in their 70s and 80s spending their afternoons meticulously writing to children they will never meet. The true strangeness of Santa Claus, Indiana, isn't found in the roadside attractions. It's in this enduring, kind lie maintained by an entire community to protect a sense of wonder. It is the only place in America where a town performs a never-ending play for the rest of the world. But if Santa Claus is a world perfectly arranged down to every corner, our next destination will leave you dizzy with its intentional chaos. A town where the architects seemingly threw away their rulers before they even began. Number 8, Eureka Springs, Arkansas, the town that said no to right angles. As you wind your way into the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas, your digital map begins to freak out. you've entered Eureka Springs, a town that seemingly threw out the ruler before it was built. In most American cities, you look for a grid. Here, roads twist like tangled spaghetti. There isn't a single 90-degree intersection in the entire historic district. It is a structural nightmare that begs the question, how does a city even function without a single right angle? The answer is found in the limestone. The town was built around 60 natural springs on cliffs so steep that some slopes hit a 20 to 25% grade. To make driving possible, every road has to curve and loop. You won't find a single plus intersection here. Walking down Spring Street, you realize the architecture has a split personality. You might enter the first floor of a house from the sidewalk, only to realize that if you walk out the back door on the third floor, you are stepping onto a completely different street. It's not an illusion, it's a brilliant adaptation to living on a cliffside. This verticality changes everything you know about a building. Take St. Elizabeth Catholic Church. Usually you look up to see the bell tower. Here, you enter through this bell tower on the hilltop, and then walk downstairs into the sanctuary. Because of this, locals rarely measure distance in miles. They measure it in stairs. A network of open-air stone stairways acts as secret shortcuts between the different levels of the town, making the walk feel like a never-ending staircase. The atmosphere is a dizzying mix of Victorian Gothic charm and the smell of wet limestone. You hear the groan of century-old wood as the town clings to the mountainside, refusing to follow the rules of the modern geometry. Eureka Springs is a place where humans surrendered to nature to create something beautiful. But if this is a charming chaos, our next stop is the polar opposite, a town planned so perfectly by a massive entertainment corporation that its flawlessness becomes the very thing that haunts you. Number 7, Celebration, Florida. The perfect town, in a glass case step into Osceola County, Florida. And you might think you've accidentally driven onto a Hollywood movie set. There are no potholes, no weeds, and every house looks like it was painted this morning. This is Celebration, a town built from the ground up by the Disney company. But why would an entertainment giant want to manage a real municipality instead of just another theme park? Buying a home here isn't just a real estate transaction. It's a commitment to a massive legal Bible. To maintain total visual harmony, houses are restricted to only 6 architectural styles, from Victorian to Mediterranean. Open the residence handbook and the discovery becomes almost obsessive. The grass in your yard cannot exceed a few inches in height, and even your window curtains must have white linings so the town looks perfectly synchronized from the street. If you forget to mow, a crew will do it for you and send a painful bill to your doorstep. But here is the twist. This perfection is a thin veil. During the holidays, because Florida is too warm for snow, Disney installed machines that blow snope, a fake snow made of soap, from the streetlights. It's magical until you realize that behind the manicured lawns lies a history of intense lawsuits regarding construction quality and overbearing control. You start to feel less like a resident and more like a character in a 24/7 simulation, living under the watchful eye of a big brother wearing Mickey ears. The emotional shift is subtle. You begin with awe at the picturesque lakes and tree-lined trails, but then a chill sets in. You notice the absence of natural scars. No litter, no clutter, no individual flair. It is a world where everyone smiles, yet everything feels manufactured. Celebration is proof that when humans try to manufacture paradise through rigid rules, they often end up with a beautiful glass cage that forgets how to breathe. But if everything in Celebration is suspiciously bright and clean, our next stop takes us to the absolute opposite, a town of crumbling skeletons, where faceless entities are silently reclaiming the Nevada desert. Yes, in number 6, Rhyolite, Nevada. The Gold City and its faceless ghosts. Deep in the Mojave Desert, about 120 miles northwest of Las Vegas, the ground sizzles at 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Here, the concrete skeletons of 3-story buildings rise from the dust like sun-bleached bones. This is Rhyolite. At its peak, it was a booming metropolis of 10,000 people, boasting its own stock exchange and power plant. Yet, in less than a decade, the entire city was wiped off the map. It leaves you wondering, how does an empire built on gold vanish so completely in such a short time? Survival in this wasteland required a bizarre kind of logic. Bricks were so expensive to transport across the desert that one miner, Tom Kelly, built his home out of 50,000 beer and liquor bottles, the only resource the town had in abundance. In 1905, shipping fresh water by rail actually cost more than a crate of beer. As you step into the ruins of Cookbank, the towering stone pillars reveal the massive scale of human ambition here, just before the financial panic of 1907 turned this dream into a graveyard. Most people visit ghost towns looking for legends of the past, but in Rhyolite, the ghosts are physical, faceless, and standing right in front of you. At the Goldwell Open Air Museum, life-sized figures draped in white cloth haunt the landscape. Here is the twist. These aren't archaeological remains. They are a haunting art project by artist Albert Sukalski. His Last Supper arrangement, featuring empty hooded forms, creates a spiritual presence that feels far more unsettling than any campfire story. The desert wind whistles through cracked walls, the only sound in the absolute silence of the Mojave. The frantic energy of the gold rush has been replaced by a heavy, timeless stillness. As the sun sets, the contrast is striking. The blue sky fades against the burning yellow sand, while the pure white ghosts glow in the twilight. Rhyolite is where art uses the ruins of history to remind us how fragile our material world truly is. But if the ghosts of Nevada are merely silent sculptures, our next stop takes us to a town where the mystery isn't found in a museum. It is a terrifying reality reported by hundreds of witnesses, an entity that changed the fate of an entire region forever. Number 5, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. When darkness becomes breath. In the quiet Appalachian town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, at the junction of the Ohio and Kanawha rivers, stands a chilling centerpiece. Right in the middle of town sits a 12-foot stainless steel statue with massive wings and piercing red eyes. It feels hauntingly out of place in such a peaceful community. Why would a town choose to honor a creature synonymous with death and the most horrific tragedy in West Virginia's history? The mystery begins in the TNT area, the McClintock Wildlife Management Area, a series of abandoned World War II ammunition bunkers hidden in the dense forest. In 1966, the first reports emerged. Witnesses described a creature nearly 7 feet tall with a 10-foot wingspan. It was no ordinary bird. It could reportedly chase cars at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour. As you explore the dark, damp concrete bunkers today, the thick Appalachian forest creates strange echoes and deep shadows, making the line between reality and myth feel terrifyingly thin. Most people assume the Mothman is just a local horror story used to sell souvenirs. But here's the twist. This legend was written in blood. On December 15, 1967, the Silver Bridge connecting Point Pleasant to Ohio suddenly collapsed, killing 46 people. Strangely, the Mothman sightings stopped immediately after the disaster. Residents began to believe the entity wasn't a monster, but a harbinger, a helpless witness to the coming catastrophe. Instead of hiding from this trauma, the town now hosts a Mothman festival every September, drawing over 20,000 visitors. They turned their greatest fear into their primary economic engine. The experience is a jarring contrast. You can touch the cold metal of the eerie statue, then turn around and buy Mothman-shaped cookies in a bustling shop nearby. The rhythm moves from the frantic, heart-pounding chases of the 1960s to the heavy, silent grief of the Ohio River's icy waters. Point Pleasant proves that humans can transform their deepest fears into a source of survival and healing. But if the Mothman had wings to fly over these forests, our next destination takes you to a place so remote that even the most modern vehicles must surrender. A place where America's only post office still operates on the legs of ancient creatures. Number 4, Supai, Arizona, where the mail travels by. Mule at Hualapai Hilltop, the pavement simply vanishes. There are no gas stations, no highways, and most importantly, no wheels. Below you lies Supai, Arizona, tucked deep within a branch of the Grand Canyon. You are staring at an 8-mile descent down a jagged, steep trail. For the 600 residents living at the bottom, survival seems like a mathematical puzzle. How do you get groceries, medicine, or even a basic letter when the nearest parking lot is a grueling half-day hike away? The answer is found in the rhythmic clip-clop of hooves. This is the only place in the United States where the U.S. Postal Service still operates via a mule train. It is a logistical marathon. Each mule carries roughly 130 pounds of cargo across a vertical drop of over 2,000 feet. In the summer, the temperature in the canyon can hit 105 degrees Fahrenheit before the clock even strikes 10 a.m. But as you watch the caravan, you realize it is not just the paper envelopes. Tied to the backs of these ancient creatures are Amazon boxes, flat-screen TVs, and tons of frozen food. It is a jarring sight, 21st century consumerism strapped to the muscle and bone of the old world. You might expect a dusty, primitive outpost at the end of such a journey, but as the canyon walls open up, the red dust gives way to something that looks like a mirage, a bright turquoise river. These are the Supai, the people of the blue-green water. And here's the unexpected part. Despite the total road isolation, Supai has Wi-Fi and a convenience store. You will see residents scrolling through smartphones just like anyone else. Every single circuit, battery, and replacement part in those devices arrived the same way the mail did, on the back of a mule. The hike is exhausting. The heat is a physical weight, and the dust coats your throat. But then, the roar of Havasu Falls hits you. The spray is ice cold, a sharp contrast to the baking canyon walls. The rhythm of life here is intentionally slow. It is a hidden gem, protected by a fortress of stone, where a community chooses to remain disconnected to keep their identity intact. Supai proves that sometimes the only way to preserve a civilization is to retreat into total isolation. But while Supai is an ancient world hidden in the depths, our next destination takes us to a place where the strangeness lies in its ownership. An American town that once had a population of exactly 1 and now carries the legacy of an entrepreneur from half a world away.
Number 3, PhinDeli town, Buford, Wyoming, where a Vietnamese dream hit population 1 high up in the Laramie Mountains at an elevation of 8,000 feet, sits a lonely stop on Interstate 80. As you drive the long stretch between New York and San Francisco, a blue road sign catches your eye. Buford, population 1. It's a classic American paradox.
How did a tiny dot on the map with only 1 resident become a global media sensation, valued at nearly $1 million? The story changed forever in 2012 when Don Salmons, the town's only inhabitant mayor and clerk, put all 10 acres of Buford up for auction. The package was a complete municipal starter kit, a post office, zip code 82052, a convenience store, a gas station, a 3-bedroom house, and even a cell tower. After a frantic 11-minute bidding war, a Vietnamese entrepreneur bought the entire town for $900,000. Inside the old mayor's office, the transition was surreal. A historic Wyoming Biu Cuc was transformed into a showroom for Vietnamese Phin coffee. It wasn't just a real estate deal. It was the purchase of a global address to broadcast a branding message to the world. However, if you are looking for a little Saigon in the mountains, you'll be surprised. Here is the twist. PhinDeli town Buford is more of a massive, lonely showroom than a neighborhood. It became the first town in the United States named after a foreign brand. By 2026, the initial boom has settled and the convenience store has closed. Yet the name PhinDeli remains etched into digital maps and GPS systems. It stands as a quiet, proud symbol of ambition, proving that population 0 doesn't mean a place is dead. Sometimes it's just a monument to a dream. The emotional rhythm shifts from the loud cheers of the auction house in Cheyenne to the biting, lonely wind of Sherman Hill, where winter can last for 6 months. It is a strange, beautiful connection. A cup of coffee from the highlands of Vietnam found its home at the highest point of America's most famous highway. It proves that in our modern world, a patch of dirt in Wyoming can carry the soul of a nation 8,000 miles away. But while Buford was a ghost town revived by business, our next stop is a ghost town where life can never return because the very earth the residents once loved turned into a deadly poison. Thought number 2. Picher, Oklahoma, the most toxic town in America. In the northeast corner of Oklahoma, near the borders of Kansas and Missouri, strange white mountains rise 100 feet into the sky. From a distance, they look like beautiful snow-capped peaks sitting on the plains. But look closer. No birds land there, and no grass ever grows. These are not mountains of snow. They are mountains of poison. Why did a place that supplied the lead and zinc for 2 world wars become a dead zone, where even breathing is a hazard? The answer lies in 70 million tons of chat, mining waste rock contaminated with lead. For a century, this was the town's lifeblood. But the logistics of prosperity were deadly. On windy days, toxic dust coated every surface in town. Underground, abandoned shafts flooded, forcing acidic, bright orange water into local streams. By the 1990s, a shocking study discovered that 34% of Picher's children had lead levels in their blood high enough to cause permanent brain damage. The residents weren't just living near the poison, they were breathing it and eating it. But here's the twist. The poison was only half the problem. The ground itself was ready to swallow the town whole. The mines were dug using a room and pillar method, but the pillars were placed so close together that Picher became a giant, hollowed-out piece of Swiss cheese. The risk of massive sinkholes became so extreme that the federal government concluded the town was unsalvageable. In 2009, the post office shut its doors, and zip code 74360 was officially wiped off the map. The emotional rhythm of Picher has shifted from the industrial roar of thousands of miners to a heavy, rusted silence. Today, rotting houses and abandoned swing sets sit under the constant surveillance of the EPA. It is a haunting physical reminder of the price of uncontrolled industrial growth. Picher is where nature reclaimed what was lost in the most brutal way possible, turning a bustling city into a scar on the American map. But if Picher was erased because its environment was too vast and toxic, our final destination takes us to the opposite extreme. A town where everyone abandoned privacy to squeeze their entire lives into a single, vertical building. Number 1, Whittier, Alaska. The all-in-one town. To reach Whittier, Alaska, 60 miles south of Anchorage, you cannot simply drive a standard highway. You must wait at the Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel, a 2.5-mile passage through a mountain so narrow it fits only one lane shared with trains. The tunnel switches directions every hour, creating a literal bottleneck to civilization. Why would 300 people choose to live behind such a restrictive, solitary door? The answer is found inside Begich Towers, a 14-story building where almost the entire population resides. Life here is a vertical discovery. You take the elevator to the post office, the police station, the health clinic, or the grocery store. You even head to the basement for church. On school days, children use an underground tunnel to reach their classrooms without ever facing the elements. In Whittier, going out often means just stepping into the hallway. While outsiders might view this as a rejection of privacy, it is actually a strategy for survival. Whittier is a white hell, receiving an average of 250 inches of snow annually, with wind speeds often reaching 60 miles per hour. In a traditional house, you would spend half your life just shoveling your front door. Here, the greatest luxury is not space, but anonymity. The local sheriff might know what you are having for dinner simply by seeing your grocery bag in the elevator. The emotional rhythm of the town is a striking contrast. The warmth of seeing neighbors in pajamas in the elevator versus the roaring Arctic storms rattling the glass outside. But there is a hard deadline. At 10:30 p.m., the tunnel locks. If you miss the final transit, you are trapped in the frozen dark between the mountains and the sea until dawn. We've traveled through hidden canyons and toxic remains, seeing how humans adapt to the wildest environments. These places might seem impossible, but they are living proof that reality is often stranger than fiction. It's these quirks and oddities that make the American landscape so fascinating. Which of these facts shocked you the most? I'd love to hear your thoughts below. If you want to discover more hidden gems and strange but true stories from around the globe, make sure to ring that bell and join our community. Thanks for watching, and remember, never stop exploring the unexpected.